What is going on, my salty home gymmers? Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be starting the solid home gym reviews budget all-in-one Smith home gym tournament. I still haven't came up with a shorter name for that. But our first comparison video is upon us. One of these machines is going to go forward, and for the other machine, it's the end of the line for it. Doesn't mean both of these machines aren't great machines, but sadly, only one can advance. So before we introduce our competitors that qualified for this criteria, let's go over the criteria. These are the specific parameters for this tournament. Number one, you have to be an all-in-one cable system rack with a Smith machine. Number two is you have to be an adjustable cable on both sides, a dual adjustable cable, and it has to be plate loaded. Well, it doesn't really have to be. Chances are it's gonna be, because our next criteria is the price of the rack. That being $1,000 to $1,500. If you find a selectorized cable rack with a Smith machine in this price range, let me know and you buy it. And then our last criteria for this tournament, in order to qualify for this tournament, sale prices do not count. That's right, if you're having a Labor Day sale and it just happens to be under that $1,500 mark, no cigar. This is our budget home gym cable Smith machine tournament. Budget being the keyword. What I mean by sale prices, you might notice on a lot of these websites, actually pretty much every brand's website that qualified for this tournament, you're gonna go on their website and you're gonna see a number slashed out and then the actual price. Nothing against our contenders, but sometimes on these sites, sale prices aren't really sale prices. Sometimes that number has been slashed out for the past year and they're just running this rack at the same general price, give or take. Now, things like clearance, Labor Day sales, end of the year sales, etc., they're not gonna qualify because they are just that price for that week or however long they're running that sale. But without further ado, let me proceed to the comparison video now that we got that out of the way. Our two competitors that we reviewed this week, and there's a link in the description if you wanna watch those reviews before this video, but our two machines that are competing on this particular comparison video is the Megastar Fitness P107, and packages are gonna qualify as well because I am trying to get everything out of these racks. So this particular package is gonna be the aluminum pulley set with the rack. It comes in one package and is currently advertised on the Megastar Fitness website for $1457.99, and it's been that price all month, and on Amazon for $1299.99. I'm not trying to discourage you from going to the site. I know these prices fluctuate from time to time, but for Megastar Fitness, Amazon seems to be the better place to get this rack. Even the base package without the aluminum pulleys on this rack is $999, which is a crazy good price. Not sure if that's long-term. I didn't invest in that package. Take that with a grain of salt. Our other contender is the EvolPow M2B Brute, and this package is gonna be the expansion edition with all the storage and stuff in the back and the lever arms, which comes in one package, regularly priced at $1499.99, which puts it a penny under our criteria. And as well, if you're only interested in the standard edition without the storage, without the lever arms, it still falls under our criteria of $1,099.99. Now, the first thing we're gonna talk about is the size of both of these racks. I feel like I should talk about this first because when you're shopping in between both of these racks, the first thing you're gonna look at is whether or not it's gonna fit in your space. Now, with that being said, the Megastar Fitness P107 is a tall boy. It's probably gonna be the tallest one in this tournament. I don't think it's crazy tall, but like I said, it's tall for a budget rack. And the Megastar P107 is coming in at 84.6 inches. Probably not a deal breaker for most of you, but it is tall for this tournament. Compare that to the M2B's height, which is 83 inches. Now, 1.6 inches might not seem like a lot, but I think you'll find, set these two machines side by side, which I'm not currently able to do, I think you'll find that it's kind of a big difference. And if you look at both of my videos and see me standing beside both of these racks for reference, you can definitely see the Megastar appears significantly taller. And it's not only gonna be the bigger one in height, but the Megastar Fitness P107 is also gonna be the bigger one with that outside width. Now, when I say outside width, I mean the Smith machine bar. The P107 has an outside width from one side of the Smith bar to the other side of the Smith bar of 86.6 inches. The EvolPow M2B has an outside width of 75.4 inches. So if you need something that's a little smaller to fit in that tight space, you might want to look at this one first. Now let's talk about the assembly. Obviously, assembly is a one-time ordeal. This is a long-term investment, but if you live by yourself and you don't have help and you're not good at that sort of thing, I suppose these two are worth comparing, but I'll be brief. Megastar Fitness is for sure the easier rack to assemble. We did talk about those instructions being wrong, but I did receive an email from Megastar Fitness shortly after that, and they have now corrected that problem and are sending out the correct instructions. But it's worth noting, even with the wrong instructions, I was able to assemble this bad boy pretty easily. Now the EvolPow, on the other hand, it's not crazy difficult, but I will say the Smith bar, and this is a stretch because all Smith bars are a pain to assemble. The Smith bar on the EvolPow is a big pain to assemble, but the Megastar Fitness assembly is generally much easier. Now on to other more important things, such as the front rack. So let's talk about the front rack on both of these machines, because ultimately that's what these machines are before anything. They're a squat rack. So I'm gonna insert a couple specs here about both of these racks. Both of these racks are 14 gauge steel. This is about the ballpark for this price range. Pretty much every rack we're gonna review in this category is the same gauge steel. It's all generally 14 gauge steel. If I get something that's not 14 gauge steel, I'd be very surprised, because that's pretty much what every company in this category, in this price range with this setup, runs with. But there is one thing separating these two racks, which is painfully obvious. The M2B has 2x2 posts and the P107 has 3x2 posts. This is pretty much a cheat in this tournament. If you got a smaller space, sure, go with the EvolPow. The 2x2 inch post in this category does not mean by any means that this is a bad rack, because it's not. So if you're having space issues, sure, go with something like that. But I can tell you the Megastar Fitness P107 is gonna be the stronger rack. Both pretty decent structure, but again, the Megastar Fitness P107 with the 3x2 inch post is just gonna be a little more stable. And one more thing, the uprights for the P107 front rack have 18 1-inch holes, and the uprights on the front rack for the M2B Brute have 13 1-inch holes. So you are getting more holes with the Megastar Fitness if you care about that sort of thing. Like I said, both of these 6-post racks, both very stable, didn't have a lot of issues with their stability, but Megastar Fitness is set up just a little better for the squat rack with the P107. Excuse me. And now the cable. Now, the P107 cable, obviously the elephant in the room here is the aluminum pulleys that comes on this package of the P107. The EvolPow M2B package that I have here did not come with aluminum pulleys. It comes with nylon pulleys. There is a package that does come with aluminum pulleys if you want to check that out. I do realize this is a big weakness in this category with the M2B having nylon pulleys, but you never know. The package that I chose for the M2B, it might win in another category. Obviously, the aluminum pulleys on the P107 are just incredibly smooth. But let's not take anything away from the M2B, because honestly, I had zero issues with this cable. It was extremely smooth as well. Both of these cables operate at a 2-to-1 ratio, and the ratio feels about the same, so there's really nothing to compare there. One thing I will bring up here is that one flaw I did find in the P107 cable is it was just slightly too short. This didn't affect the functionality of the machine at all, so I really didn't knock it. With that being said, Megastar Fitness, in a quest to improve their rack, emailed me, said they figured out the problem and why that issue existed, and it was because the aluminum pulleys are just slightly bigger than the nylon pulleys that come on their basic rack, and have resolved this issue. So I can't really knock them in this category for that, because it's been correct. And then one last thing that I'll touch on in this category is that the EvolPow M2B Brute has 11 points of adjustment on their cable coaster, and the P107 has 16 points of adjustment on their cable coaster. Outside of the number of adjustments, that small criteria, I'm just gonna stop here and say this. If both of these machines came with nylon pulleys, they would just be a dead heat, honestly. Both the cables are great on these machines. Both these cables are smooth, but unfortunately for EvolPow, I did beef up my pulleys on the P107 in this package, which falls within our criteria. So that slight jump in smoothness and aesthetic for these pulleys are gonna make Megastar Fitness win this category. Now let's talk about the Smith machine. Everybody wants to know about the Smith machine. The Smith machine on the P107 I absolutely raved about in my review. It's very smooth, it's very stable, it's very balanced, and it has a solid bar, and the assembly, even though, like I said, no assembly for a Smith machine is without pains, the assembly is not that bad. Now, as far as that smoothness and that stability goes, the guide rods on the Smith machine are very thick, very nice, and this Smith machine is just a great quality Smith machine for this price range on a combo rack of this style. The EvolPow, however, I kind of think the Smith machine is its weakest feature, I'm gonna be honest. The guide rods are just not as thick here, and there's just not as much balance here. There's a lot of play in this bar, and assembly of this thing is just an absolute pain. I don't think it's a bar that's, you know, gonna bend over time. It's a solid bar, don't get me wrong, but there's not as much stability there. So for that reason, I am gonna give the Smith machine category to the P107. And I know I'm giving a lot of categories here to the P107, and I know the package that I selected pushed it forward in a category that would otherwise be a dead heat, but this is where it comes back around for the EvolPow, because the EvolPow's strongest feature is that it's just awesome with people in a small space. And I'm gonna talk about that first when I discuss the features category. So the features on the P107 are just sort of basic, and that's not a huge issue. It just comes with your basic cable attachments. It comes with your basic front rack attachments like the dip bars, the spotter arms, the J hooks. Features that are coming with pretty much every machine in this category. But if you look at the features in the package that I selected for the EvolPow, I think it's ahead of the P107. Firstly, even the standard edition is pretty impressive. Very solid spotter arms, very solid J hooks, very well made. We talked about that on the other rack that we reviewed by EvolPow. Not to say that the P107s aren't solid. I just want to give credit where credit is due here. Also, I definitely prefer the cable crossover handle attachments on the EvolPow. For some reason, they just feel really good in the hands. I did order the lever arms. Once again, this is those space-saving features. Lever arms are great for saving space because you can do a lot of exercises on them that you would need a machine for, a machine that takes up space in your small workout area. And this is why lever arms are like all the rage now in the home gym community. Now, with that being said, we did review the lever arms in my video. They're not bad lever arms. They're not like some extravagant high-end lever arm you're gonna buy out there, but they're pretty standard. They work great, they're completely functional. I am gonna give the features category to the M2B. And if you wanna go even further with talking about features and how the EvolPow machine is better for people in that small space that don't have a lot of space to sacrifice, this is the storage category. Like I said, we did get the expansion edition, which comes with our pegboard with 15 hooks included, and it comes with this nice little shelf. And I don't know why, but I really like this shelf. It's such a simple feature. I never thought that I'd give high praise to a shelf. I found it actually very useful. I did mention in my review that it interferes with that middle plate horn in the back a little bit, but And speaking of plate horns in the back, even in the standard edition with the EvolPow, you get 6 plate horns. You get storage at the bottom of this rack in the back for your dip bars and your spotter arms. Once again, EvolPow, despite its flaws that we talked about when comparing it to the P107, seems to be the rack that has the smaller footprint, that has the shorter height, and that has the most features here that free up a lot of space in that small area. And when you compare it to the P107 has 4 very strong plate horns in the back, and probably the P107's best storage feature is the fact that it has 2 barbell holders in the bottom. Man, I just think that at least 1 barbell holder should be on every rack. I need a spot to put my barbell, please. And you are able to store your dip bars and J hooks as well on the back of the P107. So with all that rundown, and trust me, like I'm out of breath here, the storage category is obviously going to go to the EvolPow. Now it's just gonna come down to my conclusion and which rack here is gonna be made the winner. And if I'm being honest, guys, it's gonna be the P107. And what it comes down to is just a materials thing and a price thing. I mean, the P107 won a lot of important categories here. Like I said, not to say that EvolPow is a bad rack. Like I said, for people with a small space, it's a great, great rack. I just think maybe we're just a smidge overpriced here. And that hurts to say because I like EvolPow. Matter of fact, this is our second review of an EvolPow product. If you recall, I reviewed the P3A cable rack, and I thought that that was an awesome machine compared to its competitors, and probably one of my favorites. I'd put it over a lot of them for its price. However, with this specific criteria, I just think the P107 is just a little better priced and a little better made. I mean, honestly, let's strip these 2 packages bare bones. The P107 right now you can get on Amazon for $999.99 at the time of this recording. That means you can basically get the rack that I've been talking about here with nylon pulleys for $1,000. That's a really good deal. I don't know how long that deal is going to stick around, but at the time of this recording, that's what it is. It should be worth noting that Megastar Fitness is a fairly new brand here. This is just gonna be my pick between the 2. The P107 is gonna continue forward into round 2. But hey, one thing to consider in all these videos is, what do I know? I'm just one man with a small YouTube channel and a small audience. I do wanna thank both of these brands and all our contenders for being humble enough to have the confidence and the grace to make themselves vulnerable and participate in something like this. It says a lot about every single brand in this tournament that they are willing to put their product in this tournament for the sole purpose, and that's what's the takeaway here, for the sole purpose of improving their machine. And I want to thank you for tuning in. The P107 is going to go ahead and move on where it will compete in round 2 with the next contender, which will be announced this week on my Instagram. So if you're not following us there, go ahead and follow us on our Instagram. Also, go ahead and subscribe because, like I said, we are a small channel. Subscribers just mean a ton. And if you don't want to subscribe, if you're just here for a watch, that's fine too. Just, you know, thought we were friends. I'm just kidding. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. Stay active, stay grinded, and we'll see you in the next review.